Pragmata is a really interesting and somewhat weird game when you think about it on paper, and also maybe just seeing a little bit of it without knowing too much about it. It's got this weird AI girl as your main character that is somewhat past the uncanny valley, but also cute at the same time. And you also have this really weird gameplay where you are hacking bots in order to attack them. And yeah, it's a strange, unique game, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And in a lot of ways, for as strange as it is also quite traditional and refreshing in that way. But before we go any further, welcome to my channel. I'm Dustin, where on this channel we're just talking about games, low-key, chill. I want it to feel like you and I are just having a conversation. No big production or anything like that. Not that there's anything wrong, but we keep it low-key, so if you like the channel, make sure to subscribe. I also stream every Wednesday on this channel if you want to tune in live. One other quick disclosure is that I did receive this game from Capcom for review purposes in this video, but they have no influence over my opinion or anything said in this video. Alright, so Pragmata, or I was always calling it Pragmata, but then I played the game, and in the game itself they say Pragmata, so I'm going to try to say it the right way, but it feels a little off. But Pragmata is the latest release from Capcom this year, who has been on an absolute heater. Not for this year alone, but for seemingly this entire generation. They just consistently are releasing awesome games over and over and over again. And just this year alone, we got Resident Evil 9. We have a new Monster Hunter Stories game. I haven't played it yet, but I've heard it's excellent. We have this, and then later in the year, we have Onimusha Way of the Sword, also looking awesome. So I'm very excited to check that out. But Capcom has been on a real heater, as I said, consistently releasing awesome games. It's great. It's great to see after the 360 PS3 generation, pretty shaky for them, but it's clear Capcom they've been back for a while, but it feels like they're more back than ever. Pragmata, though, has been an interesting case in the Capcom success, where it was announced back at the launch. Actually, no, not the launch, at the reveal of the PlayStation 5, and has just kind of been floating around for these years. There was cute videos that showed the little girl in the game, like saying the release date, scratching it out, and putting a new release year, and she puts "I'm sorry" stuff like that. It's very cute, but at the same time, it's like, what is going on with this game? And to me, it all clicked together when we finally saw the gameplay of Pragmata. And that's where I was like, oh, this is why this game has taken so long. And that's where we get back to some of the uniqueness of this game, specifically in its combat. I have not played a game that has combat quite like this ever. So you play as Hugh, you're this astronaut guy, you're stuck on the moon. And in order to engage in combat, you're going to need to enlist the services of your little AI friend, Diane. Diane is able to hack these bots in order to make them vulnerable to Hugh's bullets. And so it's really interesting how it's done in that you're controlling Hugh. When you target a bot, you get this little grid that comes up, and you use, if you're on PlayStation, like the triangle, X, circle, square buttons in order to navigate this to hack the bot, allowing them to be attacked. And I think at first glance, this sounds really cumbersome, actually, where it's like, oh, I have to, in order to just do something basic, like attack somebody, I need to do a tiny little mini game. Like, is that going to get old? Is it going to get boring? And when I first played this game at Summer Game Fest, it was like, oh, this actually works really well and is really quite compelling. The combat requires you to flex two sides of your brain at the same time, where one of them you're dealing with Hugh, trying to make sure you're avoiding and dodging attacks, make sure you're aiming right, and the other side of your brain is dealing with this grid and trying to do the hack right. And I found that as I was playing, I was getting more and more competent at it, but at the same time, the game continues to add new elements to it. One layer that they add that I think is just so cool once I finally understood it is that Hugh's gun, which initially starts as a pistol, eventually becomes more of like an AR. It has a pretty low clip, and you don't have to worry about ammo, but it does take a little bit for it to fill back up. And so what the game does is that you will hack a bot unload all your ammo, and then it's like, well, I could either switch to another weapon, but they add this layer where between your rounds and your clips, you can do the hack again, and you can actually start being offensive with the hacking. And I've gotten to the point now where it's like I am aiming and shooting and also starting to dial in the next hack. And that's where it's like, damn, this is actually really sick. And while you always have that primary gun, the variety of the other weapons present are pretty interesting and all add a different thing to combat, whether it's the highly offensive weapons like a laser or something that shoots more like a shotgun, or there's also some defensive things, like there's one that kind of traps enemies into a net, or something that knocks back enemies, or a decoy that can take some of the heat off of you while you're in some of these crazy intense battles. So as I'm playing, I'm constantly surprised that it's like, oh, I start to settle in. I'm like, oh, I like this weapon. This is kind of my flow. They add a new element and start to introduce ideas where it's like, okay, well, maybe I can solve this situation in a different way. What if I try using this? And I'm never bored. I think that's something I was worried about when I played the demo or when I started the game. That's like, okay, I get the hacking, I get the shooting, and I'm good at this, but now I'm starting to settle in, and that's right when they introduce a new element or a new type of bot or something. So yeah, while this game has really interesting combat, and as I said earlier, unlike anything I've played before, this game also is very traditional in a lot of ways. It's very linear, level-based. You're going from point A to point B across a level select type of screen, as well as like a hub world type thing. And it's old school in that there's like a lot of collectibles. You're finding different things to upgrade your home base. You're finding currency that spits out enemies once you kill them. You're finding different things to upgrade your suit or your gun or upgrade your hacking abilities. And it feels very nostalgic. And the game isn't just combat constantly. I mean, of course, there's going to be a lot of combat, but there are some light puzzles in here as well, and different ways to interact with the game. And while I mentioned before that it is pretty linear, there are things outside of combat as well. There are different puzzles and platforming challenges that aren't ever too crazy, but a nice way to break things up as you're playing. It's too far to say it's like a collectathon or anything like that, but there is a level of completionist where you're playing a level and you see the things you missed. You want to go back and find those to upgrade and complete more of the home base, the shelter. So as far as Hugh and Diana, these are your main characters, and that's going to be a lot of the main draw. And as I mentioned earlier, Diana is super cute. She's a very fun character. Hugh is a bit more of a blank slate. Not that he doesn't have background and more that you find out about him throughout the game. And I am 50% of the way through the game, so I haven't quite finished it yet. But at least in the first half, I'm not too drawn to Hugh. It's really all about Diana. I do think that the performances in this game are a bit stiff. In fact, sometimes it can even feel a little bit hokey. Diana sounds like an adult woman trying to sound like a kid, which I know is pretty common in a lot of games because it's a lot harder to actually have a child actor do these things, but it's still a little bit of a disconnect that I'm not really into. Hugh's voice actor also a little bit stiff, but it's not bad. It's not horrible or anything, but it's not quite up to par with some other big AAA story games.
Hey, now that the power's back on, we can take the tram somewhere new.
Now we can head to the comms tower, right?
Yep, it's in the mass production array.
Talk long enough. Then I can finally call home.
And the story so far is a little bit on the safe side with a little bit of mystery. You're on the moon, and AI has gone rogue, and you're slowly figuring out what happened here. And the rogue AI story is nothing new, and the way they're doing it, of course, on the moon, and a lot of use of like 3D printers and stuff and how they're able to build this giant facility is pretty cool. But when I'm sitting down to play this game, certain games, it's like, man, I really got to keep playing because I really got to know what happens. That isn't really the case here. It's more so the gameplay that's hooking me in. Visually and performance-wise, this game has been great for me. I'm playing on PlayStation 5 Pro, and it looks awesome. I did notice just the other day while I was playing, they did do a patch that enabled PSSR2, and it was a noticeable improvement. I think I have footage, I'll put it in here, where you could see Diana's hair looked like kind of weird in motion, but in the PSSR 2 update, they made that look a lot cleaner, if you care about that kind of thing. But it was, to me at least, noticeably distracting, but fixed thanks to PS5 Pro. And yeah, you can run this at like a locked 60 FPS that's up-res to 4K. There's also an unlocked frame rate mode that can get you a little bit more frames if you have the type of TV that can handle it. So Pragmata, if you like a game that has a little bit more of an old school feel, but with a really unique gameplay twist, you absolutely gotta check this one out. I think I said in my last video for Mouse that it's very rare that we find games that are wholly unique or have a really, even not even just wholly unique, but have a really unique hook or angle to them. And I really think that should be celebrated in an era where so many games are coming out. And while there are little changes, improvements, or settings or whatever, this one clearly is taking things in a way that we've never seen before and doing it really well, too, in a way that, as I said earlier, maybe doesn't sound good on paper or necessarily look good at first glance, but once you actually start playing it and it continues to evolve, it becomes amazing. So yeah, don't miss out on Pragmata if you like games like this or you're looking for something new. I'm having an excellent time. It's pulling me away from Marathon, which is pretty impressive because I'm very, very deep into Marathon. And that's it for this video. Let me know what you think. Are you playing Pragmata right now? Let me know in the comments how you're finding it, or maybe what's taking you away from wanting to check it out. I'm curious about it all. Let me know down in the comments. And as always, if you haven't subscribed yet, I already asked you to earlier, but I'll ask you one more time. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe, check out my streams on Wednesdays, and we will see you in the next video.